What if the most powerful building on Earth looked up and had no answer? We're not talking internet rumors or campfire stories. We're talking sworn testimony, congressional subpoenas, a new federal records archive with 3 words that used to be a punchline: non-human intelligence. Tonight we'll explore why Congress is still hammering the Pentagon for UFO answers. Sorry, UAP answers. How pilots describe objects that outrun physics class. What a modern proof would actually look like. And yes, the latest tantalizing hint from a nearby world that life might not be rare at all. If there's nothing to see, sunlight will show it. If there is something, sunlight is how we meet it together. Why this is back right now? Let's start with a science headline that shoved this topic back into polite company. In April 2025, astronomers analyzing James Webb data reported something extraordinary: spectral fingerprints in the atmosphere of a distant world. Dimethyl sulfide and dimethyl disulfide on K2-18b. That's a sub-Neptune, about 124 light-years away. On Earth, dimethyl sulfide mostly comes from marine microbes. So when a team says they might be seeing it on another world, ears perk up. Important caveats first. Astronomy is careful for a reason. Signals can be misread. Models can be wrong. The biggest discoveries get the toughest scrutiny. Some researchers have argued the case isn't closed. The noise could be fooling us. Alternative chemistry might replicate the signal. Good. That's science doing the hard thing in public. But even the debate matters. If biosignatures are within reach of a telescope, something shifts. The idea that life is common stops sounding like philosophy. It starts sounding like an engineering problem. Once that door cracks open, a new question slips in behind it. If life is common out there, is it crazy to wonder whether some of it has ever been here? For decades, that question got you a raised eyebrow. Then in 2021, the US intelligence community put out something very un-internet, a sober risk assessment. It said, in bureaucratic English, that unidentified objects are showing up where our pilots train. Sometimes they get too close. This is a safety and national security problem. Translation: the stigma took a hit. The conversation grew up. But let's dig deeper into why this moment feels different. The timing isn't accidental. Multiple technological trends are converging. Our sensors are better. Our data storage is cheaper. Our computational power can process terabytes of imagery in real time. We can track objects smaller than ever before. At the same time, adversaries have cheap drones. Commercial space is booming. The sky is more crowded than it's ever been. What used to be a clear battlefield is now a traffic jam. That creates both opportunity and confusion. The opportunity: we can finally collect the data we need. The confusion: we're drowning in false positives. Add to this the cultural shift. 60 years ago, if a pilot reported something unusual, career suicide was a real risk. Today, the Navy has official protocols. The Air Force has reporting channels. The culture moved from shut up to speak up. That's not proof of aliens. It's proof of institutional learning. The first open hearing in half a century, May 2022, marks a historical pivot. For the first time since the 1960s, lawmakers hold a public hearing on UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena. In the new parlance, career officials testify under oath. The report count is climbing. Incidents include near misses. Many of the raw videos look exactly like you'd expect raw videos to look: blurry, ambiguous, infuriating. But then come the performance claims from trained observers. Multiple sensors tracking the same targets. Objects darting away at accelerations you don't see outside simulations. Hovering in high winds without visible control surfaces. Making right-angled turns that would turn a human pilot into soup. Most unsettling for the Navy. These things like restricted airspace. Think about that for a moment. If you're testing experimental aircraft, you avoid attention. You don't buzz carrier groups. You don't loiter near sensitive installations. You certainly don't make yourself visible to multiple radar systems simultaneously. Unless you're not testing aircraft, unless you're testing defenses. Congress does something sensible. It tells the Pentagon to make one office, gather everything, standardize the pipeline, treat this like aviation safety first. Thus, AARO is born in July 2022, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. By the next year, AARO's database passes the hundreds. A pattern emerges. The more data you have, the more cases get explained. Balloons, clutter, drones, Venus. Yes, even Venus sometimes fools sophisticated sensors. But a stubborn remainder sits in the unknown bucket, awaiting better pixels and more sensors. That remainder is where curiosity and caution wrestle. The hearing accomplished something subtle but important. It moved the conversation from the fringes to the mainstream. When Pentagon officials testify publicly about unexplained phenomena, it's no longer a conspiracy theory. It's a policy issue. But it also revealed the limitations of public disclosure. The most interesting cases can't be discussed openly. Sensor capabilities are classified, sources and methods are protected. The public gets sanitized summaries while the real analysis happens behind closed doors. This creates a credibility gap. Officials say they're taking it seriously while showing the least compelling evidence. Skeptics point to the weak public cases. Believers assume the classified ones are smoking guns. Neither side has the full picture. Summer 2023 changes everything. Under oath, former intelligence officer David Grush alleges that crash retrieval programs exist. Reverse engineering programs too. They've been kept beyond proper oversight for decades. He says he brought his concerns to the Intelligence Community Inspector General. He names people who should be interviewed behind closed doors. He doesn't wave metal around on camera. He doesn't sell a book. He points to process, subpoenas, SCIFs, cleared staff. The Department of Defense responds predictably. No verified evidence of extraterrestrial origin. No officially recognized crash retrieval program. AARO's historical review later echoes that assessment. Lots of law, nothing provable in hand. This is where the modern story really takes shape. On one side, no empirical proof. On the other, you're looking in the wrong safes. But Grush's allegations are different from typical whistleblower claims. He's not revealing specific programs. He's not leaking documents. He's pointing to a process failure. He's saying Congress doesn't know what it should know. That's actually more dangerous to institutional credibility. If he's lying, he's committed perjury in front of cameras. If he's telling the truth, then oversight has failed spectacularly. Either way, Congress has a problem. The allegations also have a curious structure. Grush claims direct knowledge of the program's existence, but not their contents. He spoke to people who worked on them, but didn't work on them himself. He saw documentation, but can't share it publicly. It's designed to be uninvestigable by anyone without proper clearances. That could be evidence of a cover-up, or it could be evidence of how classification actually works. Programs get compartmented, access gets restricted. Even senior officials only see pieces of the puzzle. The system is designed to prevent any one person from having the full picture. Congress, smelling a records fight, reaches for a lever only Congress has: law. Lawmakers introduce a disclosure framework modeled after the JFK Records Act. Early drafts are spicy. A civilian review board with authority to look at UAP programs. Eminent domain over recovered artifacts. The final text gets watered down in negotiations. But something genuinely new survives into the annual defense law. Agencies are told to find UAP-related records, inventory them, eventually transfer them to a special collection at the National Archives. The law defines terms straight out of science fiction. Non-human intelligence. It sets deadlines. It creates a paper trail where none existed. Is this proof of anything extraordinary? No. It's proof of seriousness. It's also a cultural pivot. The US government is now on record saying this body of documents is historically significant enough to preserve, where possible, to release. But the law's language is fascinating. Non-human intelligence could mean extraterrestrial visitors. It could mean artificial intelligence that's achieved consciousness. It could mean dolphins using tools we don't understand. The term is deliberately broad. That breadth serves a purpose. It avoids the giggle factor of little green men. It encompasses possibilities we might not have considered. It future-proofs the legislation against narrow interpretations. Meanwhile, AARO publishes its historical review, No Smoking Gun, of alien craft. Lots of human-made confusion. Critics fire back immediately. You can't find what programs don't show you. Round and round we go. The review is actually quite thorough within its constraints. It examines decades of allegations. It traces the evolution of various programs. It documents how stories evolved and spread, but it only covers officially acknowledged programs and publicly available information. That's the catch-22 of the entire situation. The most serious allegations involve programs that aren't officially acknowledged. Those programs, if they exist, wouldn't appear in AARO's review. Critics and supporters can both claim vindication. You remember, February 2023, a confirmed Chinese high-altitude balloon floats across North America. The military tracks it for days. Fighters finally shoot it down off the Carolina coast. The Pentagon releases an almost cinematic U-2 selfie taken from 60,000 feet. Then 3 more objects appear on radars. Radars that have been hypersensitized by fresh orders to look harder. 3 more shoot-downs follow. Over Alaska, Canada's Yukon, Lake Huron. Days later, the story cools. Those 3 were likely benign. Possibly hobbyist balloons. Maybe commercial weather balloons. The debris either wasn't found or wasn't recoverable. The narrative whiplash is textbook. First adrenaline, then ambiguity. But the balloon weekend reveals something important. Our air defense system was tuned for big, fast, noisy things. Strategic bombers, cruise missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles. Not small, slow, quiet things drifting on the wind. The sky is now crowded with those small things. Weather balloons, research balloons, hobby balloons, amateur radio repeaters, commercial imaging satellites, deploying tiny probes. The noise floor has risen dramatically. Enter the drone swarms, waves of small craft loitering near sensitive bases. Langley Air Force Base in Virginia gets visitors for weeks. RAF Lakenheath in the UK sees similar incursions. Reports come in from near-nuclear facilities. Some were almost certainly adversary intelligence collection, testing response times, probing detection gaps. Some were misreports, birds, balloons, Venus again. Some were just weird. The through line, attribution is hard when the targets are small and smart. The technology curves favor the intruder here. A $1,000 drone can trigger a $1 million response. Swarm dozens of them, and you can overwhelm traditional air defenses. The mathematics are brutal for the defender. Whatever UAP ultimately are, this operational headache is completely real. Airspace security has become exponentially more complex. This alone justifies the governmental attention, but it also muddies the water for UAP investigation. When military bases are dealing with confirmed drone incursions weekly, exotic explanations become less necessary. Occam's razor suggests most unknowns are probably knowns with better camouflage. If you're wondering why this topic brings institutional heat, a little history helps. The Air Force ran 3 major programs from the late 1940s through 1969. Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book. They collected sightings, investigated some, dismissed many. According to critics, they bent over backwards to explain the rest. Sometimes that worked. Temperature inversions can create radar phantoms. Venus can look like a flying saucer under the right atmospheric conditions. Birds can outrun camera shutters and create impossible-seeming imagery. Sometimes it didn't work so well. One infamous case from the 1960s, patrol officers chase a brilliantly lit, egg-shaped object for miles. Multiple witnesses, clear skies, good visibility. The official explanation, Venus. A chief scientist later said he wasn't consulted before that press release. Venus, meanwhile, was in the wrong part of the sky. Moments like this damaged institutional credibility for decades. Real bureaucratic sloppiness, not alien cover-ups, created lasting suspicion. When today's officers say nothing to see, People remember the old playbook and squint, but the old programs also reveal something important about institutional behavior. When faced with unexplained phenomena, bureaucracies tend toward dismissal rather than investigation. It's safer to be wrong about nothing than wrong about something. The Air Force had legitimate reasons for this approach. The Cold War was heating up. Soviet capabilities were advancing rapidly. Public panic about flying saucers could interfere with military operations. Better to debunk aggressively than investigate publicly. That institutional bias persists today. Military organizations are trained to identify threats and neutralize them. Unknown phenomena that can't be neutralized create cognitive dissonance. The easiest resolution is to declare them non-threats by explaining them away. The antidote isn't belief or disbelief, it's method, standardized reporting systems, sensor fusion protocols, independent materials testing capabilities, public records you don't have to FOIA fight for 5 years. So what would it take to shift this conversation from interesting to history class in a week? First, multi-sensor convergence. Not just a blurry video, a time-synchronized package. High-fidelity electro-optical footage, infrared signature data, primary radar returns with raw IQ samples, passive RF collection, flight telemetry if available, environmental readings, all correlating to the same object at the same time. No cherry-picking allowed. Make the data auditable by independent experts. Second, materials that fail terrestrial explanation. Isotopic ratios that don't match known meteoritic patterns or industrial patterns. Microstructures we can't make with current deposition methods. Surfaces with engineered features operating at scales beyond our manufacturing tolerances. Clear chain of custody from acquisition to laboratory. Third, provenance documentation. Names, dates, acquisition sites, custody logs, photographs, test reports. The full bureaucratic paper trail. Assume skeptics will reverse engineer your story and try to break it. Give them enough rope to tie your case tighter, not hang it. Fourth, independent replication. Put samples in multiple world-class laboratories. MIT, Stanford, national labs. Publish protocols where classification allows. Open the raw data. If classification doesn't allow full disclosure, empower a cleared independent review body. Give them subpoena power, declassification authority, public reporting mandate. Fifth, falsification pathways. Specify exactly how the claims could be wrong, who's trying to break them, when results will be reported. Science advances by killing wrong ideas, not protecting right ones. Notice what's not on this list. Anecdotes, no matter how compelling, vibes and intuition, zoomed pixels from compressed videos. On the flip side, hand-wavy dismissals without investigation. This isn't about believing or disbelieving. It's about epistemology, how we know anything new at all. The bar needs to be high because the implications are so large. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Not because we want to suppress the truth, but because we want to be sure we've found it. A quick tour through the cases that keep analysts honest and skeptics engaged. The Nimitz Encounter, November 2004. A carrier strike group off California detects unknown radar tracks. Objects appearing at 80,000 feet, dropping to 50 feet above sea level in seconds. Fighters are vectored to investigate. Pilots report a white tic-tac-shaped object. No visible propulsion, no wings, no control surfaces. Performing instantaneous accelerations that should require tremendous energy. Flibbly imagery captures a heat signature behaving oddly. Radar operators confirm tracks that don't follow ballistic trajectories. Multiple air crews provide consistent descriptions across different flights. Skeptics note sensor limitations, parallax effects. How easily the eye invents patterns in noise. The human brain's tendency to see agency where there's only physics. Good points all. Proponents note multiple independent sensors, multiple trained observers. Corroborated timelines across different platforms. Also good points. Nobody produces definitive physics-breaking data. Nobody produces a tidy conventional explanation either. File under unresolved, high curiosity. The gimbal video, January 2015. An object appears on infrared to rotate while maintaining forward motion. Aircrew discuss a whole fleet of them existing outside the camera's field of view. The rotation looks impossible for anything with fixed wings. Later analysis suggests the rotation could be a gimbal artifact. As the camera system tracks a hot object against a cold background, mechanical constraints can create apparent rotation. The fleet could be distant aircraft or even stars sliding across the display as the gimbal reaches its limits. Maybe. The analysis is technically sound but not definitive, and pilots keep reporting similar behaviors across different incidents with different sensor systems. The audio doesn't sound like people watching gimbal artifacts. It sounds like people seeing something that surprises them. The Go Fast clip, also 2015. At first glance, an object appears to skim ocean waves at absurd speed. The pilots seem excited by its velocity, but later range calculations tell a different story. The object might be slow and nearby, the speed illusion created by the aircraft's own movement and the camera's perspective. This one's actually a great teaching case. It shows how easy it is to misinterpret sensor data, how assumptions about altitude and distance can completely change your conclusions. A humbling reminder that the sky is an optical trickster and math beats goosebumps every time. But here's the thing about these three cases. They're the ones the military chose to release. Out of thousands of reports, these are what made the cut for public consumption. That either means they're the best evidence available, which would be disappointing, or they're the least sensitive examples from a much larger dataset, which would be intriguing. The lesson across all cases: resist both certainty and cynicism. Demand more sensors. Demand raw data. Demand rigorous analytical methods. So what does Congress actually want from all this legislative activity? First, a records backbone. Create a durable public archive where future researchers don't have to reinvent the FOIA wheel. Get the memos, radar logs, photographs, contractor reports, and email threads out of desk drawers into the National Archives with proper metadata and search capabilities. Think of it as an institutional memory bank. Right now, knowledge about UAP incidents is scattered across dozens of agencies. Different classification levels, different retention schedules, no standardized format. When people retire or transfer, their knowledge walks out the door with them. A centralized archive changes that dynamic. It makes the institutional knowledge searchable and preservable. It creates a paper trail for accountability. It establishes precedent for future incidents. Second, standardization and safety. No more ad hoc phone calls when pilots encounter something unusual. No more shrug emojis in incident reports. If someone sees something in a training range, they report it without career penalty. It enters a unified system. It gets triaged with the same seriousness as a near miss with a commercial airliner. This is actually about much more than UAP. It's about airspace safety in an increasingly complex environment. Military training areas see more civilian drone incursions every year. Commercial space launches create debris risks. Foreign surveillance platforms probe our defenses regularly. A proper reporting and analysis system benefits everyone who operates in contested airspace. The UAP angle just provides political cover for common sense safety improvements. Third, clarity about classification. If there are sensitive programs touching this topic, Congress wants to know who runs them, who audits them, how they're documented for history. Even if the public has to wait decades for disclosure, democracy doesn't run on permanent secrets. Every classified program should have sunset clauses, review mechanisms, and eventual disclosure pathways. The nuclear weapons programs are more sensitive than any UAP program could be, but we still have historical records of their development. Fourth, deterrence in the gray zone. If a significant chunk of UAP reports represent foreign intelligence collection, response doctrines must evolve. Legally, ethically, technologically, you can't protect airspace with nostalgia for simpler times. Modern adversaries use cheap drones, electronic warfare, and information operations. They probe our responses and map our blind spots. They operate below the threshold of traditional warfare, but above the threshold of normal law enforcement. Effective deterrence requires new authorities, new technologies, and new international agreements. The UAP issue provides a forcing function for those conversations. That's the real endgame. Transparency where possible, accountability where necessary, humility everywhere. A word from the skeptic's chair, where I sit by default. Humans are pattern-hungry storytellers. We see order where there's randomness, agency where there's only weather. The sky is a chaotic mess of optical artifacts, blooming infrared signatures, lens glare, video compression, parallax effects, birds outrunning camera shutters and creating impossible-seeming imagery. The more you learn about how sensors actually work, the less magical some videos become. Infrared sees heat, not objects. Radar sees reflections, not shapes. Cameras see photons, not reality. Each system has blind spots, failure modes, and edge cases where normal physics looks supernatural. The history of UFOs is also a history of mistakes. By witnesses, absolutely, but also by institutions tasked with investigation. Scientists who didn't understand their own instruments, officials who preferred quick explanations over thorough analysis, press officers that prioritize damage control over accuracy. The reason people roll their eyes at UFO claims isn't just little green men stereotypes. It's decades of nothing to see here, followed by, okay, there was a program but it wasn't important. It's Venus being blamed for everything from police chases to pilot encounters. That institutional credibility debt is real and earned. The fix is boring but essential. Publish analytical methods. Release raw data where classification allows. Admit uncertainty instead of manufacturing confidence. Reward debunkers for being right. Reward new evidence for being strong. Let facts put on their own show instead of spinning narratives around them. We don't need another mythology. We need better data sets. We don't need believers or debunkers. We need scientists with access to primary sources and the freedom to follow evidence wherever it leads. The truth is almost certainly more mundane than Hollywood suggests, and more interesting than skeptics assume. Most sightings are conventional phenomena misperceived. Some are advanced human technology. A few might be genuinely anomalous. The only way to tell which is through rigorous investigation, not tribal loyalty. Now the believer's perspective. When multiple trained observers describe the same anomalous behaviors across different times and locations, your default assumption shouldn't be mass hallucination. Trained pilots know what aircraft look like. Radar operators know what normal targets behave like. When they describe something that violates those expectations, they're reporting genuine perceptions of genuine phenomena. Most of those reports will have conventional explanations, new technology, atmospheric effects, sensor malfunctions, but most isn't all. If even 1% of incidents represent genuinely anomalous phenomena, that's historically significant. Science is full of slow-burn anomalies that eventually become breakthroughs. Quantum mechanics looked impossible until it became the foundation of modern physics. Continental drift was ridiculed until it became plate tectonics. Meteorites were dismissed as folklore until geology accepted impacts from space. The pattern is consistent. Established institutions resist anomalous data until the evidence becomes overwhelming, usually because the implications threaten existing worldviews or professional interests, and serious people, under oath, have alleged serious things. David Grush isn't a UFO enthusiast or conspiracy theorist. He's a career intelligence officer with proper clearances and institutional credibility. When someone like that makes specific allegations about classified programs, it deserves investigation, not dismissal. Even if 9 out of 10 extraordinary claims dissolve under scrutiny, number 10 only needs one piece of compelling physical evidence, one clean dataset, one sample in a mass spectrometer that refuses to be ordinary. If the odds are long, the potential payoff is civilization altering. That mathematical reality alone justifies serious investigation. The cost of missing something important vastly exceeds the cost of thoroughly investigating nothing important. But belief without evidence is just as useless as dismissal without investigation. What the field needs is curious skepticism, high standards applied fairly, extraordinary claims subjected to extraordinary scrutiny, but actually subjected to it, not just dismissed out of hand. The scientific method works. It's sorted signal from noise in every other domain of human knowledge. It can work here too, if we let it. Let's engage in a thought experiment. Tomorrow morning, there's a press conference. The podium is packed with officials from NASA, the Department of Defense, national laboratories, European partners. What would they need to demonstrate to make you say, okay, they've actually got something here? First, a comprehensive telemetry package from a recent encounter. High-definition, electro-optical footage showing structured craft with no visible propulsion. Infrared imagery capturing heat signatures that don't match known aircraft profiles. Primary radar returns with raw IQ data showing impossible acceleration profiles. Passive RF collection revealing no conventional communications or control signals. Flight data from intercepting aircraft showing their own performance limitations, all time synchronized, all independently auditable. Second, physical materials with provenance chains from acquisition to analysis. 3 independent laboratories confirming anomalous isotopic ratios that don't match terrestrial, meteoritic, or industrial patterns. Microstructures manufactured with techniques beyond current human capabilities. Surface features engineered at scales that exceed our precision tolerances. Complete documentation from recovery through testing. Third, transparent analytical protocols with ongoing verification pathways. Either open data that anyone can analyze or a cleared independent review board issuing public summaries with detailed methodologies. Multiple international teams confirming results. Peer-reviewed publications in top-tier journals. Fourth, comprehensive falsification testing. Explicit descriptions of how these conclusions could be wrong. Multiple teams attempting to debunk the findings using different approaches. Regular public updates on alternative explanations and their viability. Clear timelines for additional confirmation or refutation. That's what genuine proof would look like in the modern era. Not a single photograph or video. Not testimony from authority figures. A constellation of mutually reinforcing evidence strands, each strengthening the others, all subjected to intense scrutiny from multiple independent sources. The bar is high because it needs to be. We're not talking about discovering a new species of beetle or a previously unknown chemical reaction. We're potentially talking about technology that doesn't fit current understanding of physics or intelligence that doesn't originate from Earth. Claims of that magnitude require evidence of commensurate quality. But here's the interesting thing about setting high standards. If the phenomenon is genuinely anomalous, rigorous investigation is more likely to confirm it than casual investigation. Better sensors collect better data. Comprehensive analysis reveals patterns that partial analysis misses. Independent verification builds confidence in ways that single studies cannot. The scientific community would actually embrace genuinely extraordinary evidence, despite stereotypes about institutional conservatism. Scientists dream about discovering something fundamentally new about reality. Nobel Prizes go to people who overturn conventional wisdom, not to those who confirm it. Here's the bottom line. James Webb's hints on K218b and a universe rich in chemistry make life beyond Earth plausible, not proven. Most UAP cases are balloons, drones, sensors, or Venus. A resilient few remain unexplained. The new records push will surface memos, logs, and data, shifting UFO talk from anecdotes to archives. Treat every claim like science. Prefer primary sources, interrogate sensors, demand raw data, and prize chain of custody. Transparency, standardization, and better instruments will separate signal from noise, and if anything extraordinary exists, reveal it responsibly. Until then, curiosity with rigor beats certainty either way. Thanks for watching. Stay curious.